Hey, Rob.
Mr. Jason Piles, the producer,
Good morning, sir.
greatest producer on earth,
Yeah, right.
the greatest podcast producer. If you listen, folks, to podcasts from anywhere, just go on any podcast app. Go to the iTunes podcast store. Go to Stitcher Radio, and listen to any podcast. They're not produced by Jason. There are maybe two or three that are well produced. I've listened to Mark Maron's recent episode with Mike Myers. You know Mike Myers, Austin Powers.
Yeah. Sure.
And oh my gosh, what an interview. It's the most recent edition of the WTF podcast. You can get it at WTFpod.com. Beware, I mean, he says the F word quite a bit in the podcast, and you need to be sensitive to that. The audio quality is outstanding, Jason. It's so good. Even when he traveled to New York and set up a remote mobile podcasting thing, he was something else, man.
No, I admire that. That's tricky because pretty soon I'm going to be traveling to West Virginia, in fact. And so I'm going to be put to the test. Some sketchy sound.
I can't believe you're going to go to West Virginia. What on earth are you traveling to West Virginia for?
Well, it's still home to me. And so next week I'm taking my boy and we're going back and seeing my mom.
Oh, that's great.
Can't wait.
You could stop by and look at the new porch going on my house that I don't live in.
Okay, you want me to take a picture of it?
In right now.
You want me to take a picture of the progress for you, Rob?
No, I don't want to see it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that'd be great. I have some. The news is just full of stuff. I'm sure we have some mailbag business going on, and there's just all kinds of stuff going on, Jason. So I'm gonna walk over here and turn off my air conditioner so you don't hear this on the podcast. And then when I come back, I'm going to ask you some questions. Just right off the top of your head, I want you to give me the best answer you have.
Uh-oh. Okay, Rob.
All right. So I have a series of questions I want to ask you. And if you're a podcast listener and you want to play along, that would be awesome. So I'm not going to ask you anything super sensitive, but these are, if you don't want to play, you can tell me right now you don't want to play. But I'm not going to tell you the questions before we start.
I'm ready, but this might be like an episode of Jaywalking for Jay Leno, so just so people are ready.
What is an episode of Jaywalking? What's that?
He would go and walk along the street and ask people questions that they should definitely know the answer to. And it was just really scary how idiotic and uninformed the American public ostensibly appears to be, and so I'm probably going to be one of those people.
No, it's not like that.
Okay, good.
True, false. My parents taught me good lessons about money.
False.
True, false. I am good at restraining my impulses.
False.
My favorite book in the world is.
Sorry. Roger Ebert's movie yearbook.
Oh, I love it. I had no idea.
2001.
I bet the podcast listeners are thrilled to hear that. I think it's I don't think we know enough about you, Jason.
Well, honestly, it's a narrow scope of interests and things that are interesting. So,
what is it about Roger Ebert's movie yearbook that you like?
Well, that was the first time I discovered that he actually published books with all of his reviews.
Yeah.
You know, that span a few years. And he came out with one every year. And by the way, I own them all because I'm insane. I love Roger Ebert. But that's the first one. And so I love it to death.
Sometime on the podcast, you have to bring them out and show us your
I will. I've got
collection.
them all.
People are...
inconsiderate. Sorry, I'm not as sunny and positive as you, Rob. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't think there are wrong answers to these questions. I don't think there are right answers to these questions. I think that it's interesting that I'm interested in the listeners, and I know you are as well. Mm-hmm. Especially on that one, I thought people are fill in the blank, and how do our perceptions of what people are really like? What do they say about us? Let's say, for instance, you walk out of your house and your neighbor looks over at you and has a stern look on their face, gets into their car and drives away.
Mm-hmm.
Some people would think, oh, my neighbor, I was too loud last night. Some people would say my neighbor is not friendly. Some people would say, oh, my neighbor must have something going on in their life that's a bad day. Mm-hmm. And just as our neighbor gives us a look, the market gives us a look. And the market will look at you in the morning and the market will say, hey, oh, Rob Booker, you sold the dollar Canadian? That was a stupid, and then it shows you something. And but underneath the surface, there's more information. And I was re-instructed on this concept today because I was looking at Twitter and I was following the US dollar Japanese yen today, and I'm short the US dollar Swiss franc. I was considering selling the US dollar Japanese yen. And I thought, wow, look at this. The dollar is taking off and it's giving me this look, Jason. And currencies are inconsiderate. Currencies do not care what I think. Yes. And I thought, well, there's something underneath the surface here. And learning to be a great trader or becoming a great trader has a lot to do with not reading into that first reaction at all. If the neighbor looks at you with a stern face, you just, whatever, I don't. And it goes to this question of what books do I read? What movies do I watch? What things, it goes to this question also of my favorite book is our perceptions and our readings on the market are heavily influenced by the amount or the types of information that we bring in. That if you're a large consumer of horror movies and you hear a bump in the night, you're probably going to anticipate that it's a zombie. Or there was this conversation at the cafe yesterday about the movie Sinister. Did you see that?
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, see, of course you did. Yeah,
I love that movie. It's
right. It was one of the scariest movies you could see. What's the other one? Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, there's an original and a remake.
I can't even say the names of these movies without feeling super creeped out. I mean, I'm very.
You would never watch The Hills Have Eyes in a million billion years.
Yeah,
just saying.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
You're too good a person.
No, that's not about being a good person. It's about being a wuss. Anyway, I was interested in that, and I looked at the dollar Swiss and I looked at the dollar yen, and I found myself. I had no reaction to it. It took off. These currency pairs took off, and I had no reaction. And I think I have learned to block most initial reactions from people. Let's say that I meet somebody new and I'm attracted to them or whatever, and they brush me off. I don't think that means anything because I think that everybody brushes me off. Let's say that I trade a currency pair and it initially goes against me. I don't anticipate that means anything. And I think to a certain degree, I'm a little bit of a sociopath. I have no empathy. I actually don't even care what's underneath the surface to a certain degree. I'm like, well, I want to be short the dollar Swiss. I don't really care what the dollar Swiss thinks. The dollar Swiss doesn't get an opinion. And
well, you just don't take things personal. I don't think, Rob.
I don't take things personally. Yeah, most of the time that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that not taking things personally is an element of trading successfully. I think becoming a great trader has a lot to do with not taking it personally. And on that note, not shortly thereafter, not long at all after, I was on the Twitter, and David Rodriguez, who has been a friend of the show and a guest on the show, sent a Twitter message out, and he talked about the fact that the dollar yen was moving, but there wasn't a lot of volume behind that move. And I'm looking for the tweet right now, and I'll retweet it for those of you that follow us on Twitter. And I may even retweet it from the Traders Podcast account. So if you have the Traders Podcast app, you can jump on that. Let me just see here if I can find it. David, there it is. David Rodriguez. He is D Rodriguez FX on the Twitter. He sent 14,000 tweets and has 12 bazillion followers. And I will retweet this from the Traders Podcast. And that will be in your feed if you follow the podcast. And let me tell you, he said FXCM has this brand new volume indicator that shows the volume of the real volume, not tick volume or whatever, shows the real volume of the currency market. And he said this breakout is not sustained by volume. The dollar yen is moving, and I'm going to pull this up right now in front of me. The dollar yen is moving, but it's not sustained by volume. And that means that there aren't a lot of traders that are backing up that move, that the move has occurred, but it's not really bolstered by traders. And Jason, what that meant is there's something going on below the surface, that on the surface, you're seeing this move take off. And underneath the surface, there aren't a lot of traders who are participating in that move. And I thought, wow, that's kind of fascinating that it appears to be enthused, but in reality, it's not really enthused. The dollar yen doesn't really have a lot of backup. And so maybe it jumped up because there was an initial reaction to the ADP jobs report. And perhaps it jumped upward because there weren't a lot of participants in the market. And so it took off, but it didn't really have anybody behind it. And underneath the surface, there are actually maybe people who want to sell the dollar yen. And we're going to see a move in the opposite direction. So it pays, I think, to not let all of this information that we take in, the horror movies, the books, the whatever, it pays to maybe remain non-judgmental in the face of market activity to the greatest degree possible and form our opinions outside of the times when the market is moving really quickly.
Sounds reasonable, Rob.
Let me ask you a few of these things.
Okay, I'm ready.
Here's some more. And listeners, feel free to play along. I love asking people I know these types of questions. The best stock in the world to buy right now is?
Apple.
Awesome. The worst company in America is?
Oh my goodness. I know this. Sorry. I'm trying to do it fast, but I want to do it accurately too.
I know what you're going to say.
Fast and accurate. Oh man. No, I have, there's a list of companies that I'm super mad at. And now I can't even think of one of them.
It's a list of companies that I'm super mad at.
I just feel terrible for not. I'll just say Walmart, I guess.
Walmart. Okay, that's fine. I was going to say Comcast.
Yeah, that's a pretty
Everybody
good
hates
choice.
Comcast. And recently there was that phone call published online from that guy who tried to cancel his service in the poor Comcast rep who probably got fired, is penalized at work. So they start out each month with a full bonus. And then for every customer they lose on the phone, they get their bonus chipped away. I mean, it's like they put a bunch of people in a pit and they have them fighting against each other and eating each other's flesh and stuff. It's like Snowpiercer in the back of the train.
Yeah, exactly. I've worked for places like that before. Very good for morale, super motivating.
Super motivating, said this sarcastic podcast producer. All right. Your favorite, this doesn't apply to you as much, but your favorite trade in the world right now. You don't really have one probably, but let's
I'd have to say the dollar yen.
Love it. These are, don't answer these out loud. Okay. And podcast listeners, you go ahead and answer these out loud. The person you love the most in the world is, and the person who loves you the most is. Maybe not always the same person. And I think a lot of angst in our lives comes from this idea that we really care about so-and-so and so-and-so doesn't really care about us. And this is a trader's podcast. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of times that I get into a trade on British pound Canadian dollar. And I love the British pound Canadian dollar with all of my heart. And over here off to the side, the other currency pair that I was looking at this morning, the dollar Canadian, related, not the same, but related, that's moving. My trade's not moving. The one that I picked doesn't like me back, and I can't get myself to stop liking that trade. I can't get myself to like that. Now, one of my best friends in the whole world lives here in Gilbert, and we were having a conversation about her dating life, and she said, well, I feel like, so she was dating a guy and not a lot of her friends liked this guy. Well, she's still dating the guy anyway. And she said, but Rob, it's not my fault. I mean, I don't choose who I'm attracted to. And I thought, well, yeah, you do. I mean, if you're a trader, your job isn't to be impulsively. That's why I asked the question about impulse. Your job isn't to be impulsively attracted to something and then blindly follow that into the darkness.
Yeah.
That's how you get abused by a currency pair or a stock that you fall in love with, and then you keep going back to it. That's disgusting, but that's what happens. And I thought, well, yeah, sure as heck, you choose, and this is how you do it. You're in the British pound, Canadian dollar, or you're in Apple, and then Facebook starts to move instead. And so you dump Apple and you start going out with Facebook. That's what a trader does. A trader is willing to say, you might not have all of the features that I look for in a trade, but you're moving. You are ready for action. You're down. Mm-hmm. You're down for trading. Down DFT. I don't know. Down to DTT. I don't know what you say. Anyway, down to trade. And that's down to trade. And you choose to be attracted. You say, my personal preference for the blonde hair, blue-eyed British pound Canadian dollar is not going to cloud my judgment when this other interesting situation walks into the room. Now, I guess there could be an argument made that says, I'm sticking with the British pound Canadian dollar and it will one day make me happy. And I am in a relationship with the British pound Canadian dollar and I shall not violate the sacred whatever. But you don't get married to a currency pair. And we're talking about dating. Trading is not marriage. Trading is dating. And trading is like dating forever until the day you stop trading. You're dating. Unless you're Warren Buffett and then you married Coca-Cola years ago and you're not breaking up with Coca-Cola, or you loved Geico so much that you bought Geico. But if you think about it, he's got a stable. He is a polygamist as a trader and as an investor. The guy, that's like dating. You get to go around to all of your investments. That's not really. He gets married to his positions, but he marries a lot of positions, and so you would call that. Polygamy is marrying a lot of women. Polyandry is marrying a lot of. Having many husbands, or I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not down on this. I think polyandry is when you have a lot of husbands. And then what would you go? Poly-Investomy?
That sounds irreversible.
Poly-Investomy is the marrying of lots of different trades that you're going to hold on to forever, long-term trading. Right. But we're not in that. We're not in that business. We are the pickup artists of the financial world. We are looking for investments that we can make, that we can hold on to for short periods of time, and we're not particularly interested in holding on to anything that isn't working. And if it's not working, we're not going to continue that. Okay, that's a kind of a disgusting conversation. And then the last of them, you could finish off these sentences. My mother and my father. And then you don't have to answer it, but if you're listening to the podcast, you might be interested. I think that the answers to some of those questions do influence the way that we trade, Jason. And in other news, the New York Times is filled with news that we need to briefly get to. Can we do the news just really quickly?
All the news that's fit to print. Rob.
All the news that's fit to print. Okay, this is one of my favorite. Ex-first couple of Virginia say, united we fall. Trip Gabriel in the New York Times says, former Governor Bob McDonnell of Virginia and his wife Maureen, who are on trial for conspiring to use his office for personal enrichment, outlined an unexpected defense on Tuesday. This is great. Their marriage was so broken that they did not communicate enough to conspire about anything.
Oh my goodness. What's meant by personal enrichment?
I think they probably bought luxurious items.
Oh, okay.
With taxpayer money.
I got you.
Or they accepted gifts inappropriately from super rich people in exchange for a promise to do favors for those rich people.
I see. Okay.
which is disgusting and terrible, but it probably happens in politics way more. I actually overheard a local politician in my area make a backroom deal next to me at a bar with a construction developer. I thought
did you know I have a podcast?
Did you know that I have a podcast? Did you know that I'm going to run against you for mayor?
And I'll use it on my podcast.
This is my favorite article. At a hedge fund, a small price to pay after disgrace, by Matthew Goldstein. 3 months after his once powerful hedge fund entered a guilty plea to insider trading charges, Stephen A. Cohen is doing quite well. And I love this because I think that all this business of, I don't know, it's terrible, but you can't really, all this insider trading stuff while the world is filled with terror and people are starving. I don't get it. But anyway, insider trading is terrible and bad, and I don't endorse it. Anyway, this summer, Mr. Cohen and his family rented a yacht off the Greek islands for a vacation. An avid art collector, Mr. Cohen attended Art Basel in Switzerland in June, and last weekend he and his wife Alexandra were guests at a charitable event at the Hamptons home of the comedian Jerry Seinfeld and his wife Jessica. I just want to say, for the record, if that's what it means in America to get convicted of or plead guilty to insider trading, you could sign everybody up. I mean, this accomplished nothing. They might have, they probably should have asked him said, in exchange for, we won't prosecute you, but in exchange for a $1 billion donation to the Boys and Girls Club of America, you just go about your business and do the same thing, because he is obviously not worse off for having been prosecuted.
Sounds rough, Rob. Sounds real rough.
Isn't there something? I mean, this didn't teach anybody a lesson. It's now on the front page of the New York Times. They taught nobody a lesson. They wasted taxpayer money to do that. And they ruined people's lives that work for him. Other people that worked for him are serving jail time or sentences or whatever else, and I think they are anyway. Their lives are ruined. And he's off cavorting around. I mean, we all would have been better off if you'd left the little guy that worked for him alone. I mean, I hate this. I hate this harassment of the little guy, and then the other guys just get off. I hate that the middle class in America or around the world pays all of the taxes, and then the people who are super rich, I hate that they don't pay anything. I mean, I think the reason that I am disgusted with the way things work is because it's generally the case that the taxpayer ends up getting crushed, and people who hardly pay anything end up getting away with it. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention that. Do we have any podcast listener feedback that we need to get to?
Oh yes, we always do here. And this one, we are still getting feedback on this tech stuff, Rob.
Oh, I want to hear it. I love it.
Okay. All right. So, for example, we got one from Gia that says, "Love the show. For the tech talk, I work with EasyTradingComputers.com. The guy who owns the company is a trader and builds the computers to your needs. Desktop have more power, but the laptops rock."
Yeah, I just saw the way that this whole thing came up, Jason, is I saw a webinar replay of this guy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what's his name?
Gia.
Gia. Or her.
GIA. Or her. Yes. The staff is great to talk to because they understand this, and I geek out with them every time. I need no more than my laptop and FXCM. For my phone, I like the Trade Interceptor app. It has great charts. Keep it real simple. And then closes with stay with the movie reviews. Being a trader, I love that I get to go on brain freeze and enjoy a good movie. Going to the movies is, defiantly posted in my job description handbook on page 2. After put the trade in, walk away, and let it rock out.
Gia, that is awesome. I think that's I think that's fantastic.
Yes, I agree.
I'm going to contact the folks at Trade Interceptor. I forgot about that. They're pretty good. They're good people. Them's good people. We should be in touch with them sometime.
Yeah. And how about another one? This one's serious business here, Rob. This is from Octrader.
Okay.
Like that. It says, "Hey guys, I'm a software engineer / computer scientist Born and raised in Silicon Valley, but living in Orange County the last 20-ish years.
Nice.
I do discretionary trading as well as automated trading, so I'll split them out without too many details. So under the manual/discretionary trading heading, it's got a PC desktop, homemade, built with my son to teach him about computers.
Dude, that's awesome. Who is this? What's our friend's name?
Octrader.
Octrader. I know what you're talking. Okay, I thought I recognized. Yeah. Okay. Great. So he built a desktop PC with his son.
Yeah, to teach him about computers. That's cool. Great dad there. And it says Core i5 processor, 16 gigabyte RAM. Mm-hmm. I'm of the opinion you can never have too much RAM.
Oh, that's a good. Oh, I'm happy to hear that because I am loading up my next computer with RAM.
I know you're into that. A 250 gigabyte SSD drive and 2 terabyte standard hard drive. Nice video card. Can't remember the brand. I don't care. 2 24-inch HD monitors. I also do a lot of my trading research and backtesting on my 15.4-inch HP Envy laptop.
Okay.
Core i7, 8 gigabyte RAM, 750 gigabyte hybrid drive, 1080p screen, etc. It's Mackie, i.e. backlit, chiclet keyboard, lightweight, battery lasts long, yada yada.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And it says, I trade stocks and options through Think or Swim and Interactive Brokers, TWS, both of which can run on Windows or Mac. I use mostly Windows 8.1 for trading because NinjaTrader requires Windows, and I use Windows a lot more for other business needs. It's pretty great, but I also like Macs, especially for content creation, but I just don't use it for trading. But they are good too. I don't like running Windows on the Mac, at least in a virtual machine. I beat the snot out of my hardware pretty good, and I want to be as close to the metal as possible. Also, my MacBook Pro is only 13 inches, and I need at least 15 inches and 1080p or higher resolution, so it's not really suited for that unless I connect to it to an external monitor. Right. I use it mainly for iOS development. It has a 500 gigabyte SSD drive and a 16 gigabyte of crucial RAM.
Right.
And as far as Apple versus Windows, it just kind of depends on what your needs are. I'm interested to hear about your forays with the Surface Pro 3. Mm-hmm. If you go that route, I think that's a pretty compelling option. As far as mobile trading, I have a handful of trades on my iPad 2 or iPhone 5 for various got to get in, out of this trade situations, but I usually avoid trading from mobile devices if I can. It's just not as productive. So that's that section. And then he also gave us an automated trading section. And he says, I have a 1/4 cabinet with 14 rack units at a local co-location facility I use for my consulting clients and my own needs. On my trading server, I run a Dell 1U server with 16 gigabytes of RAM, Intel Xeon processor. I can't remember the rest of the
Xeon
specs.
processor, yeah. Xeon processor, yeah.
Xeon, okay, thank you. He says he can't remember the rest of the specs. It's overkill. He says I run Windows Server 2012. I code and operate my automated strategies and NinjaTrader 7, and they trade S&P E-mini, NASDAQ E-mini, and crude oil futures contracts. My broker is Optimus Futures, which provides market data via Rhythmic, and the trades clear through Vision Financial Markets. I may have to change broker since there was a recent NFA ruling against Vision, i.e. they are shutting Vision down, so I may have to make a switch soon unless my IB can switch FCMs, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting question. You know, when you trade through an introducing broker oftentimes in the futures market in particular, sometimes in the Forex market as well. And that company introduces you to a firm that can clear your trades for you. So there's the introducing broker in the middle between you and the actual broker. And sometimes that broker gets shut down or stops business or doesn't make enough money, and they go out of business. And then you're left with this relationship with the introducing broker, and then they might choose a different firm to go do business with. It's kind of an interesting question. I've always wondered how that works. In the futures market, I guess they just transfer the book of business over to another firm, and if you like them, you stay, and if you don't like them, you don't. But it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And then there's closes on a personal note here. Said, next time you're in OC, I'd love for you to speak at the OC Traders Meetup. Leaves the link here, which I started in 2008 and moderate still today. I started it as a way to meet and socialize with other traders. We can make it work around your schedule, and people will show up for sure. Bring your kids too if you want. My daughter is an awesome babysitter. That's cool. So
yeah, you got it.
awesome.
I'll come out. Absolutely. I'll come out in August. So you should definitely send me an email to the podcast. Jason will forward it, and we'll get to we'll set something up, and we could do it in August or September. That'd be great.
That sounds fun. Awesome.
Well, Jason, I love these conversations about technology, and I think we could make this a little segment. If you've got an email that you could send us about what technology you use for trading, we want to hear from you, and there probably are others already waiting, but get your email in. We'd love to read a little bit about what kind of technology you use. Jason, how can they reach the show?
Well, they can email us at producer@traderspodcast.com, or you can leave a comment in the show notes for this episode.
And we'd love to hear from you. You can also download the Traders Podcast's apps. It's available on Android and for the iPhone. You can simply go to the App Store and search for Traders Podcast, or on Android, search for Traders Podcast, no spaces in between the words, and they will pop up. You'll get access to the latest episodes, the videos of the episodes, and on the contact link, you can actually send us an email or call us and leave a voicemail straight from the app, and we would love to hear from you. Download that app today. We would love to be able to stay in better touch with you as well. Jason, did anybody write in and ask us to look at a financial instrument?
You know, I've been watching for that, and let me just double check here.
I don't think anybody has.
I don't think so. Eric wrote and said, vodka helps me sleep. Wait, does sleep and passing out mean the same thing? But let me see.
That's pretty good. Thanks, Eric. That's good. Was that a comment or an email?
That was a comment. Isn't that
I gotta
funny?
check that out. I'm gonna jump on there today and check it out. On behalf of Jason, the producer, I'm Rob Booker. Both of us are probably going to see Guardians of the Galaxy this week, although there are other movies coming out.
James Brown, get on up. That's what I'm seeing.
And what else is coming out? There's another one coming out this Friday, Jason, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, those two are the major releases, at least playing around me.
Yeah.
But I don't live in a fancy town like you, Rob. So
No. There was another movie that was coming out that was in very limited release that I wanted to see really badly.
Oh,
and
yeah?
someone recommended it to me, and I realized I wasn't going to be able to see it. It's not Fire and Rescue. I know that.
They're definitely not that. It's probably, let's see, is it Calvary?
Yeah.
With Brendan Gleeson?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet that's good.
Yeah,
I can't wait. Tell me how that is.
All right, I'll see if I can find it anywhere. I don't know if it's coming soon. Into the Storm, The 100-Foot Journey, Step Up All In. Wow. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Expendables 3, The Giver, Let's Be Cops. I want to see Let's Be Cops.
Yeah, that looks.
Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. I will definitely see anything from Frank Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason, have a spectacular day. And to all our podcast listeners, don't forget, contact the show. You can write us at producer@Traders Podcast. You can leave a comment in the show notes for this episode, or you can download those apps and give us a phone call straight from the app. We would love to get a voicemail. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. How did that all go?
It was good. It was good. So are we off the air?
Yeah, well, we're off the air. Hold on, let me make sure we're off the air.